to the unsung heroes of medieval sanitation, the gong farmers, whose tireless and often thankless work kept the medieval world from becoming an even bigger, stinkier mess than it already was. Your dedication to the, shall we say, less glamorous aspects of medieval life deserves far more recognition than history has afforded you. This book is a small attempt to acknowledge your contribution to the surprisingly complex and often hilarious history of hygiene. May your efforts finally receive the acknowledgement they deserve, albeit centuries late. This work is also dedicated to those who have ever had the misfortune of encountering a truly appalling public restroom, a shared experience that transcends time and geography. For those times when the fragrant memory of a poorly maintained outhouse causes a shiver of nostalgic dread, may this book offer a small measure of morbid amusement and a renewed appreciation for the wonders of modern plumbing. It is a testament to the power of human ingenuity and resilience, a reminder that even amidst the most unsavory circumstances, people find creative and sometimes comical solutions. The medieval gong farmers, with their rudimentary tools and incredible fortitude, navigated a world of overflowing cesspools, pungent streets, and the ever present threat of disease. Their story, far from being simply unpleasant, is one of human adaptation, perseverance, and an often overlooked contribution to the tapestry of medieval society. This book is an attempt to tell their story, a story that is simultaneously revolting, fascinating, and dare I say, strangely endearing. It's a testament to the fact that history isn't always pretty, but it's always interesting. And sometimes it's even funny. It is also a dedication to those who have ever had the misfortune of a truly terrible public restroom, reminding us that the struggle for hygienic relief is a timeless pursuit. May the pages that follow offer a small bit of insight, a larger helping of amusement, and a deep gratitude for indoor plumbing. Chapter 1: The Royal Throne and the Cesspool. Sanitation in High Society. Imagine, if you will, a king, resplendent in velvet and jewels, seated upon a throne of carved oak, the very picture of regal majesty. Now picture the less than regal reality lurking beneath that throne, a complex network of chutes, drains, and cleverly concealed pipes, all designed to whisk away the less than majestic byproducts of royal life. This, my friends, is the surprisingly sophisticated world of castle sanitation, a far cry from the simple chamber pot image often conjured up by modern imaginations. The castles of medieval Europe, those imposing fortresses of stone and power, were not just centers of political intrigue and lavish feasts, they were also surprisingly advanced, for their time, centers of waste management. While the concept of advanced might need some qualification given our modern standards, the engineering feats involved in managing the waste of hundreds, even thousands of inhabitants within the castle walls were nothing short of impressive. We're not talking about a rudimentary system, we're talking about a complex, often multi-layered and surprisingly efficient, for its time, network designed to keep the castle habitable, or at least relatively habitable. Central to this system were the guard-robes, essentially medieval toilets. These weren't the porcelain thrones of today, but rather stone seats built over chutes that emptied into a series of drains. These drains, in turn, often led to moats surrounding the castle. The moats, already serving as defensive barriers, were also functioning, albeit rather pungent, sewage systems. The constant flow of water in the moats helped to carry away the waste, a surprisingly effective method, though one can only imagine the less than pleasant aroma that must have permeated the castle air, especially on a still day. But the system didn't end there. A network of pipes and channels, often cleverly hidden within the castle walls, facilitated the movement of waste from various points within the castle to the main disposal points. The sheer scale of this infrastructure, often unseen and largely forgotten today, was a testament to the medieval builders' ingenuity and their surprisingly pragmatic approach to a problem we might consider rather unpleasant. Think of it as early, albeit somewhat rudimentary, plumbing. The role of the castle servants in this process cannot be overstated. These individuals, often overlooked in historical accounts, were the unsung heroes, or perhaps anti heroes, of castle sanitation. They were responsible for the physically demanding and undeniably unpleasant task of cleaning the garderobes and managing the flow of waste through the system. Their work was essential to the functioning of the castle, yet they were largely invisible, their contributions overshadowed by the glamour and power of the royal court. Imagine the sheer volume of waste generated by a castle teeming with nobles, servants, soldiers, and animals. A task requiring not only physical strength, but also a certain level of resilience to the odors and hazards associated with the job. The design and layout of the castle itself played a crucial role in the efficiency of its sanitation system. The placement of garderobes, the angle and gradient of drains, and the overall flow of traffic within the castle were all strategically planned to maximize the effectiveness of the waste disposal system. Castles were not haphazard collections of buildings. They were carefully constructed environments designed with functionality and, to a degree, hygiene in mind. Specific examples of royal latrines offer fascinating insights into the sophistication, again, relative to the time, of castle sanitation. Records from some castles detail impressive, if rather unusual, features. Some accounts mention specially designed ventilation systems to mitigate the odors emanating from the garderobes. Others describe elaborate flushing mechanisms using water channels or even rudimentary gravity-fed systems. These systems were not always foolproof, of course, and leaks or blockages were certainly not unheard of. Imagine the royal embarrassment caused by a malfunctioning royal toilet. The contrast between the lavish lifestyles of the nobility and the unsavory realities of their waste disposal is stark. While the king might feast on roasted boar and sip fine wines, his servants were dealing with the consequences of those feasts, toiling in less than ideal conditions to ensure the continued habitability of the castle. This juxtaposition highlights the often forgotten social inequalities inherent in medieval society. The privileged enjoyed the benefits of relative cleanliness, as much as one could enjoy cleanliness in a medieval castle, while others bore the burden of maintaining that cleanliness, their work hidden from view and often undervalued. Beyond the moats, the disposal of castle waste also involved a wider network. In some cases, waste was transported outside the castle walls, often emptied into designated areas, or even used as fertilizer on nearby fields. This practice, while environmentally practical, also presented potential health risks, underscoring the complex relationship between sanitation and disease in the medieval period. The management of waste wasn't simply a matter of emptying chamber pots. It was a complex, multifaceted operation that involved numerous individuals and a surprisingly sophisticated infrastructure. It was a system that reflected the hierarchical structure of medieval society, with the realities of waste management often falling disproportionately on the lower classes. Consider the architectural implications. The construction of a castle with an efficient sanitation system demanded careful planning and considerable engineering expertise. The placement of drains and chutes had to be factored into the overall design of the building, requiring a level of forethought that's often overlooked when discussing medieval architecture. The challenges posed by the construction and maintenance of such a system in a time without modern tools and materials should not be underestimated. It was a significant undertaking, one that required both ingenuity and considerable labor. Furthermore, the risk associated with working in the castle's sanitation system was significant. The constant exposure to waste, pathogens, and the hazards of poorly maintained infrastructure put those involved in waste disposal at considerable risk. Accidents and injuries were probably quite common, and the potential for disease transmission was ever present. It is tempting to romanticize medieval life, but this aspect, the often dangerous and unsanitary conditions of those who managed waste, reminds us that the glittering facade of medieval castles often masked harsh realities. This glimpse into the surprisingly sophisticated for its time world of medieval castle sanitation helps us to appreciate the stark contrast between the conditions of the past and the conveniences we enjoy today. The next time you flush a toilet, perhaps you will spare a thought for the countless individuals who toiled in less than pleasant conditions to ensure somewhat the cleanliness of their medieval counterparts, the hidden heroes, or rather, the hidden sewage managers of the castles. Their contribution, while often obscured by history, is a crucial element of understanding the complex realities of medieval life. Now, let's leave the rather pungent world of royal castles and their surprisingly advanced, for their time, sewage systems and journey to a seemingly more serene setting, the medieval monastery. The image that often springs to mind is one of quiet contemplation, illuminated manuscripts, and pious devotion. But even in these havens of spiritual reflection, the realities of bodily functions and waste disposal couldn't be ignored. In fact, the monasteries, with their often large populations of monks, presented unique sanitation challenges that surprisingly led to some rather ingenious solutions and perhaps unexpectedly a unique form of monastic scholarship. One might imagine that the cloistered life of a monk would preclude any need for sophisticated sanitation, but that would be a gross oversimplification. Medieval monasteries, particularly the larger ones, housed hundreds, sometimes thousands of individuals. The sheer volume of waste generated daily required a robust, if rudimentary, system of disposal. Far from being haphazard affairs, monastic sanitation systems often demonstrated a surprising degree of planning and foresight, reflecting a practical approach to hygiene interwoven with spiritual practices. The layout of the monastery itself played a key role in waste management. Privies or latrines were typically positioned strategically, often away from the main living quarters, but still easily accessible. These weren't just holes in the ground. Many were surprisingly well constructed structures, often made of stone, and sometimes even featuring multiple seats to accommodate multiple monks. The design frequently included drainage systems, often using simple channels or sloping floors to direct waste away from the main building. Some monasteries even had sophisticated systems of flushing using water from nearby springs or wells, showcasing a remarkable understanding of hydraulic principles. But the story doesn't end with the efficient disposal of waste. The monastic approach to sanitation was far more nuanced than simply removing waste. Hygiene, in the medieval world, was often intertwined with spiritual practices. Cleanliness was viewed not just as a matter of physical health, but also as a reflection of spiritual purity. Monks, as custodians of religious devotion, held a strong emphasis on cleanliness, a belief manifested in various rituals and practices. Consider, for instance, the ritual washing that was a regular part of the monastic day. This wasn't just a quick splash of water, it was a carefully performed ritual, reflecting a commitment to both physical and spiritual purification. Washing was seen as a way to cleanse oneself of the impurities of the world, preparing both body and soul for prayer and contemplation. This emphasis on cleanliness extended beyond personal hygiene to the monastery itself. Monasteries were regularly cleaned, a task often undertaken by dedicated personnel, reflecting the importance placed on maintaining a clean and orderly environment conducive to spiritual practices. Now, let's delve into the most curious aspect of monastic sanitation, the so-called latrine libraries. Accounts from medieval manuscripts paint a picture of a rather unique monastic practice. It appears that certain latrines, particularly those in larger monasteries, became spaces of contemplation and, surprisingly, study. Monks, during their necessary visits to the privy, would bring along their books, spending their time reading while attending to their bodily needs. This practice, while seemingly bizarre to modern sensibilities, reveals a pragmatic and perhaps surprisingly efficient use of time. The latrine, rather than being solely a place of bodily functions, became a quiet retreat for reading and scholarly pursuits. The existence of latrine libraries speaks volumes about the monastic lifestyle and the priorities of monastic life. It suggests a degree of comfort and even a certain acceptance of the physical realities of life within the monastic setting. The quiet solitude of the privy, away from the bustling activity of the monastery, provided an ideal environment for reading and reflection. The monks, rather than shunning the necessary bodily functions, integrated them into their daily routines, demonstrating a practicality and a surprising sense of adaptability. Think of it, the hushed tranquility of the monastery, punctuated by the occasional rustle of parchment and the soft murmur of a monk absorbed in his reading. This seemingly odd juxtaposition creates a rich tapestry of medieval monastic life, one far removed from the sterile image often projected. The latrines were not simply places of waste disposal. They were integral parts of the monastic environment, serving as functional spaces for reflection and scholarly pursuits. This highlights the pragmatic and adaptable nature of monastic life, where spiritual pursuits and physical necessities were seamlessly intertwined. Furthermore, the latrine libraries also reveal the value placed on literacy and scholarship within monastic communities. Books were precious commodities, often painstakingly copied by hand. The fact that monks would bring their books to the latrine, risking their precious volumes to potential damage from the dampness and other hazards, underscores the importance of these texts in their lives. It is a testament to their intellectual curiosity and commitment to learning, extending even to the most mundane aspects of daily life. The latrine libraries were, in a way, a testament to the enduring pursuit of knowledge and understanding, even amidst the rather unpleasant surroundings. The construction and maintenance of these monastic latrines also offer insights into the practical skills and knowledge within monastic communities. The design and layout of the latrines reflect an understanding of engineering and construction principles. The drainage systems, though rudimentary compared to modern plumbing, were often remarkably effective. The construction itself, often made of stone or durable materials, shows a commitment to building structures that could withstand the elements and the constant use. The regular cleaning and maintenance of the latrines, a task that would have been far from pleasant, highlights the dedication and practical skills of the monks in managing their waste disposal and maintaining a relatively hygienic environment. Beyond the technical aspects, the latrine library phenomenon also reflects the monastic focus on contemplation and self reflection. The quiet solitude of the privy provided a space for introspection and meditation. The act of reading, coupled with the natural bodily functions, could have served as a form of meditative practice, a combination of physical and mental engagement. It's a surprisingly harmonious image if one can get past the underlying subject matter. The contrast between the idealized image of monastic life and the reality of their sanitation systems is striking. The latrine libraries, in particular, challenge our preconceptions, showing us a pragmatic and surprisingly adaptable side of monastic life. It's a reminder that even in the most seemingly austere and spiritually focused environments, the basic necessities of life, including the rather less glamorous aspects, still needed to be addressed. But the monastic response shows that even these necessities could be integrated into the broader context of their lives, demonstrating a practicality and resourcefulness rarely seen in accounts focused solely on the religious aspects of monastic life. Their ingenuity in both managing waste and finding ways to integrate the process into the daily rhythm of their lives offers a valuable lens through which to understand the practicality and adaptability of medieval monastic culture. It also demonstrates that even amidst the sacred and spiritual, the everyday realities of human existence remain a constant. And what better example of that than the monastic latrine, which served not only as a utilitarian space, but also, rather surprisingly, as a scholarly sanctuary. The latrine library, a phrase that alone is enough to elicit a chuckle, is a reminder that history is often full of unexpected and amusing details that enrich our understanding of the past. Now, let's ascend from the relatively humble, if surprisingly well organized, sanitation systems of monasteries to the opulent, yet equally problematic world of royal courts. Imagine the scene: glittering tapestries, richly adorned halls, the clinking of goblets filled with fine wine, and the hushed whispers of courtiers vying for the monarch's favor. This picture of regal splendor, however, often concealed a less than pleasant reality beneath its shimmering surface. a reality involving a rather significant amount of waste. Royal courts, with their dense populations of nobles, servants, and hangers on, generated a volume of waste far exceeding that of even the largest monasteries. The sheer scale of the problem presented unique challenges, demanding sophisticated, for the time, solutions, albeit ones often shrouded in elaborate etiquette and a complex hierarchy of responsibility. Forget the simple privies of the monasteries. Royal waste disposal was a multi tiered affair involving specialized personnel, complex procedures, and of course, its fair share of royal pronouncements and occasional and highly unhygienic accidents. The sheer volume of human waste produced within the confines of a royal palace was considerable. Consider the sheer number of inhabitants, the king and queen, their numerous children, the court officials, the guards, the servants, some of whom likely slept in the very hallways themselves, and the constant stream of visitors, all contributing to a continuous flow of waste. Unlike the monasteries, where some degree of planning and centralized disposal was possible, royal palaces, with their sprawling layouts and multiple wings, presented a far more complex logistical challenge. The system itself was often a stratified affair, mirroring the social hierarchy of the court. At the bottom were the gong farmers, the medieval equivalent of sanitation workers. These individuals, often from the lowest social strata, bore the unenviable task of collecting and disposing of the palace's waste. Their work was arduous, dangerous, and certainly not for the faint of heart. Imagine wading through the foul smelling contents of countless chamber pots, navigating dark, cramped corridors, all while risking exposure to disease and the wrath of the court. Their existence, rarely documented in detail, offers a stark contrast to the glamour and sophistication of court life. Their lives offer a poignant reminder of the unseen labor that kept the royal machine functioning, a task rendered all the more challenging by the lack of adequate protective gear and the prevalence of contagious diseases. The very idea of a royal palace, with its lavish displays of wealth and power, sits uneasily alongside the image of these unseen laborers struggling through the unpleasantness of their daily work. Above the gong farmers in the hierarchy were the various servants, responsible for the initial collection and transport of waste. These individuals, while not performing the dirtiest task, still faced their own set of challenges. The constant movement of waste, often stored in chamber pots and other receptacles, represented a significant logistical operation, demanding careful coordination and a keen awareness of the court's delicate social dynamics. A spilled chamber pot could easily lead to a major social faux pas, not to mention a significant amount of cleaning for unfortunate individuals. The social standing of these servants varied greatly, and their interactions with the higher ranking members of the court were governed by a strict code of conduct. The royal chamber itself presented particular challenges. The king and queen's waste disposal was a matter of utmost importance, often handled by specially designated servants, whose tasks went beyond mere waste collection. Their duties included maintaining the cleanliness of the royal chambers and ensuring that everything was in its proper place, reflecting the high standards of hygiene relative to the time expected within the royal household. The royal privy was often a more elaborate affair than the typical chamber pot, perhaps with some form of basic flushing mechanism or a more sophisticated drainage system. courtly etiquette played a significant role in waste disposal. While we may find it amusing to imagine nobles casually flinging their waste from windows onto unsuspecting passers-by, such incidents, though likely infrequent, highlight the casual disregard for hygiene sometimes exhibited by the elite. The very idea that such behavior could occur underscores the vast disparity between the privileged and the less fortunate. Indeed, there are accounts detailing accidents, some less amusing than others, involving royal personages and their waste. A king slipping on a carelessly discarded chamber pot, or a queen accidentally being splashed by the contents of a poorly handled receptacle, would be a far cry from the majestic image we typically associate with royalty. These incidents, though rare, serve to humanize the royal figures, reminding us that even those in positions of supreme power were subject to the unfortunate realities of inadequate sanitation. They further emphasize the role of the gong farmers and other sanitary workers in preventing such incidents from disrupting courtly life and possibly injuring members of the royal family. Waste management in royal courts was also a complex economic affair. The disposal of waste wasn't simply a matter of removing it, it also involved the management of resources and the imposition of taxes. Toilet taxes, as they might be called, were imposed on the inhabitants of royal cities, which helped fund the upkeep of public latrines. The collection and disposal of waste, in turn, generated income for certain individuals and groups, reinforcing the already complex social and economic dynamics of court life. But the contrast between the outwardly lavish display and the less than pleasant reality of court sanitation highlights a broader point about the history of sanitation. The opulent settings, the formal ceremonies, the glittering jewels, these create a false impression of an advanced civilization. The contrast underscores the fact that technological progress doesn't necessarily equate to universal hygiene and well-being. Even amidst the grandeur and wealth of the royal court, the basic necessities of life, the disposal of human waste, for instance, remained a persistent and significant challenge. Moreover, the relatively unsanitary conditions within royal courts, despite the resources available, stand in stark contrast to our modern understanding of hygiene and public health. The prevalence of disease and the potential for outbreaks were always a very real threat. The lack of modern plumbing and sanitation systems meant that the royal court, paradoxically, could be a breeding ground for infectious diseases. The royal family and their court, despite their outward display of power and wealth, were as vulnerable to the devastating effects of disease as any peasant. Their sophisticated system of waste management was a desperate attempt to mitigate the risks rather than a truly effective solution. This fascinating juxtaposition of royal grandeur and the grim reality of waste disposal helps illustrate how medieval society, for all its sophistication in certain areas, remained surprisingly primitive in others. It offers a compelling example of how seemingly disparate aspects of medieval life, the social hierarchy, economic systems, and the very physical realities of bodily functions, were intertwined in intricate ways. The study of royal waste disposal, therefore, provides us not only with a glimpse into the less glamorous aspects of court life, but also a valuable lens through which to understand the complexities and contradictions of medieval society as a whole. The very notion of a royal flush takes on a whole new and rather pungent meaning in this context. Now, let's shift our focus from the sheer logistics of royal waste disposal to the surprisingly complex economics of medieval sanitation. While the image of a king casually tossing refuse from a window might conjure amusement, the reality of waste management in medieval times was a far more intricate and, dare I say, financially stimulating affair. The very act of relieving oneself became entangled with the fiscal realities of the era, leading to a system of taxation that would make even the most seasoned accountant raise an eyebrow. Forget the sleek, automated systems of modern waste management. Medieval sanitation was a messy, labor intensive, and highly stratified process. And at the heart of this unsavory enterprise lay the toilet tax, a levy imposed upon the inhabitants of towns and cities to fund the construction and maintenance of public latrines and the salaries of those who cleaned them. These taxes, often recorded in meticulously kept municipal accounts, offer a fascinating window into the economic and social realities of the medieval world. Think of it as the medieval equivalent of a sewage surcharge, albeit one collected without the benefit of modern plumbing. The impact of these taxes varied widely depending on location and social standing. In densely populated urban areas, where sanitation was a particularly pressing issue, the tax burden could be substantial, representing a considerable portion of a family's income. For the urban poor, this meant a constant struggle to balance the essential need for sanitation with other basic necessities, forcing many into precarious situations. Imagine the plight of a family struggling to make ends meet, forced to choose between paying the latrine tax and buying food. Records from several medieval cities indicate a direct correlation between the frequency of disease outbreaks and the ability of the poor to pay these taxes, highlighting the systemic inequities that were embedded within this seemingly mundane aspect of daily life. Interestingly, these taxes weren't uniformly applied. Some cities implemented a tiered system based on wealth, mirroring the existing social hierarchy. Wealthier citizens paid more, while the poor paid less, or potentially nothing at all, a testament to the inherent inequalities of the medieval social structure. This system, however imperfect, reveals a degree of awareness among city authorities about the potential impact of their sanitation policies on different segments of the population, albeit one likely influenced by the pressure of more powerful citizens. The actual collection and administration of these toilet taxes are similarly fascinating. City officials and tax collectors often faced significant challenges in enforcing these laws, dealing with resistance from those unwilling or unable to pay. Imagine the scene: a disgruntled citizen arguing with a tax collector over the fairness of the levy, or perhaps a wealthy merchant attempting to evade payment through clever accounting practices. Documents from this period vividly describe these conflicts, revealing the intricate power dynamics inherent in the process. Records exist of disputes, appeals, and even occasional instances of outright rebellion against these taxes, underscoring the fact that even something as seemingly basic as sanitation could ignite social unrest. The revenue generated from these taxes funded a variety of sanitation-related activities. This included the construction and maintenance of public latrines, the hiring of gong farmers and other sanitation workers, and the implementation of rudimentary waste disposal systems. The construction of public latrines, even rudimentary ones, represented a significant investment in infrastructure, transforming the sanitation landscape of medieval cities. These communal facilities, while perhaps not luxurious by modern standards, provided a vastly improved alternative to the chamber pot for many citizens. The detailed municipal accounts provide a precise record of material costs, the price of wood for the latrine structures, the cost of tools and labor, even the expense of transporting waste to disposal sites outside city limits. However, the allocation of funds was not always equitable. The disparity in wealth distribution meant that richer areas of a city often enjoyed better sanitation services than their poorer counterparts. A wealthier neighborhood might have more frequent cleaning, better maintained facilities, and a reduced risk of overflowing waste, illustrating the close connection between financial resources and the quality of sanitation. The accounts, therefore, reveal a stark and unpleasant reality. A society where even something as basic as sanitation was deeply influenced by social class. But beyond the direct costs, the economic impacts of inadequate sanitation were far reaching and devastating. Disease outbreaks, frequently linked to poor sanitation, resulted in significant economic losses. These epidemics would disrupt trade, cripple labor productivity, and place an enormous strain on local resources. The consequences extended beyond the immediate victims, affecting the entire social and economic fabric of the community. This reality forced medieval authorities to consider sanitation not simply as a matter of hygiene, but as a crucial factor in maintaining economic stability. Furthermore, the jobs created by the sanitation industry, albeit often dangerous and poorly compensated, played a critical role in the medieval economy. Gong farmers, scavengers, and other sanitation workers, while occupying the lowest rungs of society, provided an essential service. Their work, however unpleasant, contributed to the overall functioning of the medieval city, highlighting the complex economic dynamics at play. Their contribution, though often overlooked in historical accounts, constituted a vital yet often undervalued part of the medieval economy. The study of medieval sanitation taxes therefore offers a unique perspective on the medieval world, extending beyond the realm of mere historical curiosity. It reveals a complex interplay of social, economic, and political forces, reflecting the inequalities and challenges faced by medieval societies. It reminds us that even in the seemingly mundane aspects of daily life, the struggle for hygiene and public health was inextricably linked to the economic and social structures of the time. Analyzing these seemingly insignificant taxes, we find the reflection of a wider struggle, a societal fight for well-being played out in the shadow of overflowing cesspools and the constant threat of disease. The dry accounting records, therefore, become vibrant narratives, painting a grim but undeniably compelling picture of medieval life. The system, while far from ideal, represented a crucial, albeit imperfect, attempt to manage the complex economic and social challenges associated with sanitation in a pre-industrial society. It's a story of grit, ingenuity, and a surprisingly sophisticated, for its time, approach to a problem we still grapple with today, albeit with far more advanced tools at our disposal. And perhaps understanding their struggles will lead us to appreciate a little more the convenience of our modern plumbing. The meticulously maintained latrines of royal castles, with their surprisingly sophisticated, for their time, flushing systems, stand in stark contrast to the grim realities of sanitation on the medieval battlefield. While kings and nobles enjoyed a degree of controlled waste management, the common soldier faced a different, far less pleasant reality. The romanticized image of the valiant knight, shining armor gleaming, is quickly tarnished when we consider the unsanitary conditions that often determined victory or defeat. Indeed, for the medieval soldier, a knight's night soil, his excrement, was a constant companion and a deadly one at that. Imagine the scene: a sprawling encampment, a chaotic jumble of tents, horses, and men. The air hangs heavy with the stench of sweat, unwashed bodies, and decaying organic matter. Human waste, animal droppings, and discarded food accumulate in a putrid stew, breeding grounds for disease carrying flies and vermin. Such unsanitary conditions were not merely unpleasant, they were lethal. Dysentery, cholera, typhoid. These were not simply inconveniences, they were significant factors in determining the outcome of battles and sieges, often more devastating than the sword or the arrow. The lack of structured sanitation systems in military encampments directly contributed to these epidemics. Unlike the castles, with their strategically placed garderobes and efficient, if somewhat primitive, waste disposal methods, the battlefield offered no such conveniences. Soldiers, often lacking even basic privacy, relieved themselves wherever they could. The result was a breeding ground for disease that threatened the morale and effectiveness of the army. Historical accounts are replete with descriptions of armies decimated not by enemy forces, but by epidemics resulting from appalling sanitation. Consider the Siege of Acre in 1291, a pivotal moment in the Crusades. The prolonged siege, with its cramped and overcrowded conditions within the city walls, fostered an environment ripe for disease. Chroniclers of the time detail the horrifying scenes of sickness and death, describing an army ravaged not only by the enemy's attacks, but also by the dysentery and typhoid that ran rampant through the besieging forces. The sheer scale of mortality, far exceeding battle casualties, speaks volumes about the devastating impact of inadequate sanitation. The stench, we can imagine, must have been unbearable, a suffocating miasma that undermined the already precarious morale of the soldiers. This wasn't simply a matter of individual discomfort. The spread of disease threatened the entire military operation. An army weakened by illness was far less effective in combat, more vulnerable to enemy attacks, and less able to sustain a prolonged siege or campaign. Disease could undermine a carefully planned invasion or turn a winning strategy into a disastrous defeat. The ability of an army to maintain its sanitary conditions became a key aspect of military strategy, though not in the sophisticated ways we understand it today. A general's success wasn't just about tactical brilliance. It also depended on his ability, or the ability of his quartermasters and logistics officers, to at least mitigate the effects of appalling hygiene. The contrast between the controlled environment of the castle and the chaos of the encampment highlights the limitations of medieval sanitation knowledge. While castle sanitation, even in its rudimentary form, reflected an understanding of the basic principles of waste disposal, that understanding simply didn't translate to the battlefield. The logistical challenges of providing sanitation facilities for a large mobile army were simply insurmountable given the technological limitations of the time. The very nature of military campaigns, with their rapid movements and reliance on temporary encampments, rendered comprehensive sanitation almost impossible. Furthermore, the attitudes of the time contributed to the problem. The pervasive medieval belief that disease was caused by miasmas, bad air, rather than germs, meant that efforts to prevent disease focused on improving air quality rather than controlling waste disposal. This misinterpretation of the causes of disease meant that even when attempts at sanitation were made, they were often misdirected and ineffective. While some rudimentary efforts to dispose of waste away from the encampments were undertaken, they were largely ineffective in preventing the spread of disease. The sheer scale of the waste generated by a large army dwarfed any attempts at proper management. The role of the army camp followers also adds to this grim picture. These individuals, often women and children, were integral to the army, providing essential services like cooking, laundry, and nursing. However, they also lived in the same appalling conditions as the soldiers, contributing to the spread of disease. Their proximity to the soldiers increased the rate of infection as disease spread rapidly through the crowded and unsanitary encampments. Their vulnerability made the overall health situation even more precarious. The entire camp ecosystem, soldiers, camp followers, animals, was trapped in a cycle of disease. However, despite the overwhelming challenges, there were some attempts to manage the situation. Certain military orders, like the Knights Templar, were noted for their more disciplined approaches to hygiene, reflecting a greater awareness of the connection between sanitation and health. These efforts, however, were limited in scope and often undermined by the logistical difficulties inherent in maintaining sanitation in a mobile army. In contrast to the relative order within the castles, the battlefield remained a terrifyingly hazardous place where disease was as dangerous as the enemy. The impact of poor sanitation on the course of history is undeniable. The loss of lives through disease, frequently exceeding losses due to actual combat, changed the course of wars and significantly impacted political outcomes. The Black Death, for instance, was not simply a random catastrophe. Its spread was facilitated by the inadequate sanitation practices of the time. The disease's devastating effect on the population contributed to profound social, political, and economic upheaval across Europe. The Black Death was, to a large extent, a disease of poor sanitation. The study of sanitation on the medieval battlefield offers a grim yet ultimately valuable perspective on the limitations of medieval military technology and society's understanding of public health. It underlines the reality that in medieval warfare, success or failure was as much determined by the ability to manage the health of the army as it was by battlefield tactics. While the romanticized image of the medieval knight endures, the unsanitary realities of the life of the common soldier offer a sobering counterpoint, a testament to the harsh, unhygienic conditions that determined the fate of empires and the lives of countless individuals. The battlefield, it seems, was a place where even a knight's night soil held the power of life and death. Perhaps this stark contrast, the carefully managed sanitation of the castle versus the terrifyingly squalid realities of the battlefield, offers the most compelling illustration yet of the uneven distribution of resources and comfort in medieval society. The very survival of the soldier was frequently dependent on factors far beyond their control, on the whim of disease and the limitations of medieval sanitation. Chapter 2: The Gong Farmer's Tale: Life in the Medieval Underbelly. The meticulously managed latrines of the nobility, a testament to medieval ingenuity in waste disposal, were but a tiny glittering island in a sea of filth. While kings and queens enjoyed relative comfort, a vast undercurrent of human waste flowed through the medieval world, a current navigated by individuals whose existence was as vital as it was grim: the gong farmers. Their lives, largely unseen and often forgotten, represent a crucial, if unpleasant, aspect of medieval society. They were the unsung heroes of sanitation, the individuals who bore the brunt of societal neglect and the constant threat of disease to keep the cities from drowning in their own refuse. Their social standing was, to put it mildly, low. Considered pariahs, outcasts even beneath the lowest rung of the societal ladder, they occupied a space on the margins of medieval life, existing in a kind of societal shadow. Their work, inherently disgusting and dangerous, earned them the contempt and aversion of most of society. They were the bearers of a foul burden, and society ensured they carried it alone, ostracized and frequently reviled. Their very presence was an uncomfortable reminder of the less glamorous aspects of existence, the inevitability of waste and decay, a reality that the upper echelons of society preferred to ignore. But this social isolation had practical consequences. Access to health care, to decent housing, to basic necessities, all were significantly limited for the gong farmers. They often lived in squalid conditions, a stark contrast to the relative cleanliness, at least compared to their working environment, of even the poorest citizens. This created a vicious cycle. Living in unsanitary conditions increased their vulnerability to the diseases they were constantly exposed to, exacerbating the risk inherent in their profession. It was a life of constant struggle, a precarious existence, teetering on the precipice of poverty and disease. Their tools were crude, reflecting the rudimentary technology of the time. Wooden shovels, simple buckets, and perhaps a rudimentary wheelbarrow were their primary implements. There were no specialized suits, no advanced safety equipment, only the rudimentary protection offered by layers of worn clothing and the sheer resilience of the human body. Their days were long, arduous, and filled with backbreaking labor. They toiled under the relentless sun in summer and battled freezing temperatures in winter, their work uninterrupted by seasonal changes. It was a life dictated by the relentless rhythm of waste production. A typical workday for a gong farmer might begin before dawn. They would move through the narrow, often unpaved streets of medieval towns and cities, navigating the maze of alleyways and back streets that were filled with mountains of refuse, human excrement, household waste, animal carcasses, discarded food. It all lay there, a festering testament to the city's daily output. With their basic tools, They would shovel and collect this refuse, working tirelessly until they filled their buckets and wheelbarrows. Then came the transportation. The waste had to be moved, often to areas outside the city walls or to designated dumping grounds. The journey itself was often arduous. The weight of the waste, combined with the uneven terrain, taking a physical toll on their bodies. Imagine the strain of pushing a heavy wheelbarrow over cobblestone streets, battling the stench and the ever present risk of disease. Furthermore, the act of dumping the waste wasn't a simple disposal. It was often a process of haphazard scattering, leading to potential contamination of water sources and the continued spread of disease. This was not a sterile process. There was no protective gear, no advanced equipment, and often the very air itself was heavy with the stench of decay. They were exposed to disease at every stage of their workday, from the initial collection of the waste to its final disposal. Dysentery, cholera, typhoid, these were not just abstract threats, they were the ever present companions of the gong farmer, shaping their daily lives and limiting their lifespans. Many did not live past middle age, felled by the very filth they so diligently removed. The work was physically demanding, emotionally draining, and socially isolating. It was a thankless job, often performed in near total anonymity. While kings and queens enjoyed the fruits of their labors, literally in a way, the gong farmers were invisible, their contribution to public health completely undervalued. There were no formal guilds, no protective associations. They were largely on their own, battling both the physical challenges of their work and the social stigma that accompanied it. However, within the harshness of their lives, stories of resilience emerged. Accounts from medieval chronicles offer glimpses into the tenacity and strength of these individuals. Their work, though distasteful, was essential. It was the gong farmers who held back the tide of pestilence, preventing epidemics and safeguarding the health of entire communities. Their silent sacrifice played a crucial role in maintaining a semblance of order in a time when diseases could wipe out entire populations. The anecdotal evidence paints a picture of quiet dignity, a stoicism in the face of adversity. They were not simply the waste collectors of medieval society. They were the unseen guardians, silently protecting the health of their communities. Their lives were a stark reminder of the unsanitary realities of medieval urban life, a testament to the human resilience in the face of appalling conditions. Their stories, though often lost to history, deserve to be told, not merely as a morbid curiosity, but as a tribute to the strength, resilience, and unsung heroism of those who toiled in the shadows of medieval society. The gong farmers of the medieval world serve as a compelling example of how the underbelly of society supports the functionality of the upper class. Their work, though deemed undesirable, was fundamentally vital to the survival and maintenance of medieval cities. Their lives, though harsh and unforgiving, were a testament to the often overlooked contributions of the unseen, the unheard, the unsung heroes who enabled civilization to function despite the pervasive limitations of their time. In the quiet dignity of their labor, we find a counterpoint to the romanticized images of medieval life, a reminder that history is not only composed of kings and queens, knights and ladies, but also of those who, silently and often invisibly, kept the wheels of society turning in the face of unimaginable hardship. The stench of their work may have been unbearable, but their contribution to medieval society was irreplaceable. The romanticized image of medieval towns, with their quaint cobblestone streets and half timbered houses, often obscures a less charming reality: the pervasive stench of filth. While the nobility might have enjoyed relative cleanliness within their castles, the streets of medieval cities were a different story altogether. Densely packed populations, coupled with a complete lack of modern sanitation systems, created an environment ripe for disease. Imagine a world where the gutters, if they existed at all, were little more than open ditches overflowing with human waste, rotting food scraps, and animal carcasses. This was the daily reality for the vast majority of medieval city dwellers. The streets themselves were a labyrinth of narrow, winding alleyways, often unpaved and uneven. Cobblestones, when present, were poorly laid, creating dips and crevices that trapped refuse. Rainwater, instead of flowing away through a drainage system, simply mixed with the accumulated waste, creating a fetid slurry that permeated the air. The lack of proper drainage meant that even the smallest downpour could turn the streets into raging rivers of filth, carrying the city's refuse into the nearest water source, often the same source from which the inhabitants drew their drinking water. The consequences were catastrophic. Epidemics were frequent and devastating, decimating entire populations. Diseases like dysentery, cholera, and typhoid were rampant, spreading quickly through the densely packed communities. These diseases were not simply a threat to the poor, they affected all strata of society, though the impact was certainly more severe on those living in the most unsanitary conditions. Infant mortality rates were astonishingly high, and life expectancy was significantly lower than it is today, a stark testament to the pervasive influence of disease in medieval urban life. The sheer volume of waste was staggering. In the absence of toilets as we know them, chamber pots were the primary means of waste disposal. These were emptied, often unceremoniously, into the streets or into designated, but poorly managed, cesspits. The resulting stench was almost unimaginable to modern sensibilities, a constant and inescapable element of daily life. Animal waste added to the problem, as livestock often roamed freely through the streets, adding their contribution to the growing pile of refuse. Markets, bustling with activity, further exacerbated the issue, as discarded food and other waste added to the ever growing accumulation of filth. The lack of waste management wasn't simply a matter of negligence. Medieval cities faced significant logistical challenges in dealing with the problem. The rudimentary technology of the time severely limited their ability to effectively remove and dispose of such vast quantities of waste. Simple wooden carts and shovels were the primary tools used by the gong farmers, and the lack of paved roads and effective transportation systems hindered efficient waste removal. The sheer scale of the problem often outstripped the capacity of available resources, leading to a constant struggle to contain the overflowing tide of refuse. Furthermore, the urban planning of medieval cities rarely considered sanitation. Cities grew organically, often with little attention paid to infrastructure. The haphazard arrangement of buildings, coupled with the lack of adequate drainage, created a network of narrow, poorly ventilated streets, perfect for trapping and spreading disease. The concentration of population in relatively small areas, combined with the lack of effective waste management, created a perfect breeding ground for disease. The medieval city, in its picturesque charm, was also a place of extreme, unsanitary conditions, a reality that significantly impacted the lives of its inhabitants. The contrast between the idealized image of medieval life and the harsh reality of its unsanitary conditions is striking. The romantic notion of medieval towns, often portrayed in paintings and literature, often fails to capture the constant struggle against filth and disease. The beautiful tapestries and illuminated manuscripts fail to depict the stench, the flies, the rats, and the ever present threat of illness. The reality was far removed from the romanticized vision, far grimmer and more challenging than we often realize. It's important to understand that this wasn't simply a matter of aesthetic discomfort. The unsanitary conditions were a significant factor in shaping the lives of medieval people. The constant threat of disease led to high mortality rates, particularly among infants and the elderly. It limited productivity, as people were often sick or weakened by illness. It also had social implications, as the poor and marginalized bore the brunt of the unsanitary conditions, exacerbating existing inequalities. The lack of sanitation was not a mere inconvenience. It was a significant social and public health issue that fundamentally shaped the experiences of medieval communities. Consider for a moment the sheer psychological impact of living amidst such filth. The constant stench, the swarms of flies, the presence of rats. These were not merely background elements. They were inescapable realities that permeated daily life. The fear of disease must have been ever present, a palpable anxiety shaping every interaction and decision. The constant struggle against infection, combined with the lack of effective medical treatments, created a world where life was precarious and death was a frequent visitor. Yet, despite the appalling conditions, medieval cities persisted. They thrived in a way, even amidst the filth. Commerce flourished, culture developed, and society continued. The resilience of medieval people is remarkable. Their ability to adapt and survive in such challenging circumstances, a testament to the human spirit. Their lives, however, were profoundly shaped by the unsanitary realities of their environment, a stark reminder that the history of cities is not just a story of progress and development, but also a history of struggle against disease and filth. The image of the medieval city is far richer and far more complex when we consider the often overlooked reality of its streets of filth. The gong farmer, then, wasn't just a figure of grim fascination. He was an essential part of a system desperately trying to keep pace with the consequences of a rapidly growing population and a complete lack of modern sanitation. The legacy of his struggle is one we are still grappling with today. The autumn chill gave way to a winter's bite, transforming the already squalid streets of medieval cities into something truly horrific. The vibrant chaos of summer markets, with their spilled produce and overflowing refuse, was replaced by a grim, frozen landscape. The stench, ever present, now clung to the air with a chilling tenacity, amplified by the stillness of the frozen ground. The usual flow of liquid waste, already a sluggish torrent in warmer months, now froze, creating treacherous, icy patches that snaked through the narrow alleyways. For the wealthy, the impact of winter was a matter of inconvenience rather than existential threat. Castles, with their elaborate systems, however rudimentary by modern standards, of guardraobes and moats, experienced a slowdown in the rate of waste production, but the problem didn't vanish. Imagine the scene: a lordly chamber pot, its contents congealing into a solid, unyielding mass. The task of emptying it became a Herculean effort, requiring heated water and considerable effort, even for the castle's servants. The frozen moats, far from efficiently carrying away waste, became sluggish, icy death traps for the unfortunate animals who might wander too close. The stench, even within the castle walls, was intensified by the inability of the frozen air to disperse it effectively. The plight of the poor was exponentially worse. Their homes, often little more than cramped, poorly insulated huts, offered minimal protection against the freezing temperatures. Chamber pots, already a meager solution in the summer, became a source of immense discomfort and potential danger in the winter. The frozen contents were difficult to empty, leading to overflowing pots and a growing risk of disease. The streets, already a breeding ground for illness, became even more dangerous. The freezing temperatures slowed the decomposition process, creating a festering, stagnant layer of filth that lay beneath the snow and ice. The gong farmers, the unsung heroes, or anti heroes, depending on your perspective, of medieval sanitation, faced unprecedented challenges. Their already arduous task became exponentially more difficult. Shovels, often wooden and poorly maintained, struggled to break through the frozen crust of waste accumulated in the streets. The carts, pulled by weary animals, often became stuck in the ice, further hindering their progress. The freezing temperatures numbed their hands and feet, increasing their risk of injury and illness. And yet, they continued, their work largely unseen and unappreciated, their lives a constant battle against the elements and the ever-present threat of disease. The process of waste disposal was a slow, painstaking effort. First, the frozen waste had to be thawed, often using heated water, a precious commodity in the winter. Then, it had to be broken up and cleared. This was not a simple matter of scooping up the mess. The combination of frozen waste and ice-covered streets created treacherous conditions, increasing the risk of falls and injury for the gong farmers. The frozen ground also made it difficult to dig cesspits or properly dispose of the collected waste. Many cesspits, already overflowing in the summer, simply froze over, creating an even larger and more hazardous problem. The waste, unable to decompose properly, became a concentrated source of disease, further intensifying the public health crisis. The impact on public health was devastating. The cold temperatures slowed down the natural decomposition process, allowing diseases to linger for longer periods. The freezing conditions also made it more difficult to contain the spread of infectious agents. The lack of proper sanitation, coupled with the harsh winter conditions, led to a surge in cases of dysentery, cholera, and typhoid fever. The already high mortality rates increased dramatically, particularly among infants and the elderly, who were the most vulnerable to the harsh conditions. The winter months became a period of heightened anxiety as families braced themselves for the inevitable wave of illness. The snow itself became a deceptive mask, hiding the layers of filth beneath its pristine surface. A light dusting could give the illusion of cleanliness, but beneath the surface, a chilling reality persisted. The melting snow often revealed a horrifying truth: a festering mass of frozen waste, teeming with disease and stench. The streets transformed into treacherous skating rinks, slick with a mixture of ice, snow, and human and animal waste. The very air seemed to hold its breath, choked by the oppressive combination of cold and decay. The image of a medieval city in winter was far from the picturesque winter wonderland often romanticized in art. It was a landscape of chilling despair, a grim battle for survival against the relentless onslaught of winter and disease. Furthermore, the freezing of water sources added another layer of complexity to the sanitation crisis. The rivers, already polluted by years of waste, often froze solid, preventing the usual, albeit contaminated, water flow. This created a buildup of waste in areas near the waterways and forced communities to rely on increasingly scarce and potentially unsafe sources of water. The impact on the city's overall health and hygiene was profound and contributed to the rapid spread of winter ailments. The problem wasn't just limited to the obvious. The increased use of fire for heating during the winter months contributed to air pollution, making the already foul air even more difficult to breathe. The smoke, mingling with the stench of decaying waste, created a suffocating, acrid atmosphere that further exacerbated respiratory problems. The limited sunlight, combined with the perpetual gloom of the cold months, also played a significant role in the overall health and morale of the population. The combination of cold, darkness, and unsanitary conditions created a breeding ground for despair. The contrast between the opulent castles and the squalid living conditions of the poor became even more stark during winter. While the nobility huddled around roaring fires in their heated chambers, the poor shivered in their drafty huts, battling not only the cold, but also the ever-present threat of disease and starvation. The lack of access to clean water, food, and basic sanitation exacerbated the inequalities that already existed within medieval society. Winter, in its harshness, amplified the existing social divides, further highlighting the vulnerability of the poor and marginalized. The stories of the gong farmers during this period were tales of grim endurance and silent heroism. Their work, already dangerous and unpleasant, became even more hazardous in the winter. Their tools were ill-suited to the conditions, their bodies constantly exposed to the elements, and their lives constantly threatened by disease and injury. Their struggles, however, were rarely documented or acknowledged. Their stories, lost to the annals of history, are a testament to the unsung heroes who battled against the filth and disease, allowing medieval cities to survive despite the overwhelming odds. Their legacy, a grim reminder of the harsh realities of life in the medieval underbelly, serves as a stark contrast to the conveniences of modern sanitation, prompting a renewed appreciation for the seemingly mundane yet vital systems that keep us healthy and safe. The legacy of their silent struggles, their frozen battles against filth, deserves far more than a footnote in the annals of history. It deserves to be remembered as a harsh and vital lesson about the constant struggle for survival against both the elements and the consequences of our own choices. The winter's grip tightened, exacerbating the already precarious situation. The frozen waste, a testament to the city's neglect, became a breeding ground for disease. It wasn't simply the stench, though that alone was enough to curdle the stomach. It was the unseen enemy, the microscopic agents of death lurking within that icy muck, waiting for the opportunity to invade a vulnerable body. The lack of understanding of germ theory meant that even the most observant individuals couldn't grasp the true nature of the threat. They saw the symptoms, the fever, the chills, the agonizing diarrhea, but the invisible cause remained a mystery, fueling fear and superstition. The plague, that infamous specter of medieval life, was not a singular event, but a recurring nightmare. Its arrival wasn't heralded by a dramatic fanfare. Rather, it crept in subtly, its presence signaled by an increase in mortality, a growing pallor among the city's inhabitants, and a sickeningly sweet scent mingling with the familiar stench of decay. The bubonic plagues carried by fleas that infested rats thriving in the filth ridden streets was a particularly insidious killer. Its spread was directly linked to the appalling sanitation of the time. The rats, in their search for food, were ubiquitous. They navigated the labyrinthine alleyways and crowded tenements, moving effortlessly from one dwelling to another, spreading their deadly cargo with frightening ease. The overflowing cesspits, the open sewers, and the mountains of refuse provided perfect havens for these rodents, ensuring a plentiful supply of hosts for the disease. Historians, poring over medieval chronicles and accounts, paint a grim picture. They cite harrowing descriptions of entire families wiped out, of villages decimated, and of cities brought to their knees by the plague's relentless advance. These weren't mere statistics, these were stories of human suffering on a scale unimaginable to most today. One such account, from the diary of a Benedictine monk, describes the horror he witnessed in his monastery. He recounts the agonizing deaths of his brethren, their bodies racked with fever and their faces contorted in pain. He describes the desperate attempts to contain the disease, the frantic burying of the dead, and the pervasive fear that gripped the community. The stark reality is that even within the relatively protected confines of a monastery, the plague could not be entirely evaded. The monk's diary served as a stark reminder that even those who lived relatively sheltered lives were not immune to the consequences of poor sanitation. The public health crisis was compounded by the lack of understanding of hygiene and disease transmission. The prevailing medical theories of the time were a bizarre mix of astrology, humoral imbalances, and religious interpretations. Doctors, often more reliant on superstition than science, prescribed treatments that were often ineffective and sometimes downright harmful. Bloodletting, for example, was a commonly used treatment, which, far from helping the patient, often exacerbated their condition. The lack of basic understanding of contagion meant that simple precautions, like hand washing or quarantine, were not implemented effectively. This lack of knowledge created a climate of fear and uncertainty, contributing to the rapid spread of the disease. The absence of effective public health measures had devastating consequences. The authorities, often ill-equipped or simply apathetic, failed to implement any meaningful strategies to mitigate the spread of the disease. There was no coordinated effort to improve sanitation, no system for quarantining infected individuals, and no organized medical response. The result was a catastrophic loss of life. Entire communities were devastated. The economic fabric of the region was shattered, and the social order was thrown into chaos. The stories of the plague years are filled with accounts of mass graves, desperate pleas for divine intervention, and a sense of utter helplessness in the face of an invisible enemy. The impact extended beyond the immediate mortality. The plague didn't simply kill, it also left behind a legacy of trauma. Survivors were left with lingering physical and psychological scars, their lives irrevocably altered by the experience. The constant fear of infection cast a shadow over their daily existence, and the high mortality rates led to widespread social disruption. Families were broken, communities were shattered, and the social fabric of medieval society was stretched to its limits. The economic consequences were equally profound. The plague decimated the workforce, disrupting agricultural production and trade. The resulting economic hardship further exacerbated the suffering of the population. Beyond the immediate impact of the plague, the longer term consequences of poor sanitation were equally significant. The chronic presence of disease, fueled by unsanitary conditions, had a profound impact on the health and productivity of the population. People were frequently ill, their lives shortened by repeated bouts of dysentery, cholera, typhoid, and other infectious diseases. This constant state of illness had a devastating effect on the overall quality of life, hampering economic progress and hindering social development. The comparison between the sanitation practices, or lack thereof, of medieval times and the advanced systems we have today is striking. Modern sanitation systems, based on a scientific understanding of disease transmission and public health, have dramatically reduced the incidence of infectious diseases and improved the overall quality of life. The availability of clean water, effective sewage disposal, and public health initiatives have been transformative. This contrast serves as a poignant reminder of the long struggle humanity has faced against disease and the profound impact of proper sanitation on human health and well being. The medieval gong farmer's tale, while steeped in grime and unpleasantness, ultimately serves as a valuable lesson. The seemingly mundane act of waste disposal is paramount to human health and the survival of civilization. The lack of effective sanitation wasn't just a matter of inconvenience, it was a death sentence for many. The consequences extended beyond the immediate victims, impacting the entire social fabric of medieval life. From the frozen streets to the overflowing cesspits, the medieval underbelly served as a stark reminder of the inextricable link between sanitation and disease, a connection that even today, despite our advanced understanding, demands constant vigilance and careful management. The stories of those who lived and died amidst the filth offer a valuable, if sobering, lesson. The absence of modern sanitation is not merely a matter of discomfort, it's a threat to life itself. The medieval experience underscores the ongoing need for proper sanitation, not as a luxury, but as a fundamental human right. The lives lost in the shadow of the plague serve as a constant reminder of the vital role of sanitation in protecting human health and ensuring a healthy society. The medieval gong farmer, burdened with the city's refuse, toiled in a world where the concept of waste management was rudimentary at best. His daily existence was a testament to the stark contrast between medieval realities and the sophisticated sanitation systems we take for granted today. The evolution from the gong farmer's unenviable task to our modern, technologically advanced waste disposal methods is a remarkable journey, highlighting humanity's persistent struggle for cleanliness and its profound impact on public health. Consider the simple act of eliminating human waste. In medieval times, this was a far cry from the convenient press of a button. Chamber pots, often emptied unceremoniously into the street or nearest open space, were the norm for most. The more fortunate might have access to garderobes, essentially chutes built into castle walls that led directly to a moat or nearby river, turning these waterways into open sewers. This was hardly ideal, even for the nobles who utilized these facilities. The stench, even from a distance, was potent, with decaying organic matter permeating the air, providing a constant, pungent reminder of the unsanitary conditions. The unfortunate reality was that these moats, intended to protect castles, also served as repositories of waste, which in turn fueled the spread of disease. A castle, with its imposing walls and majestic architecture, often concealed a truly repulsive reality within its very foundations. In contrast, monasteries, with their emphasis on order and discipline, often possessed more organized, albeit still rudimentary, sanitation systems. Monasteries, surprisingly, sometimes boasted what could be considered latrine libraries, long rows of latrines aligned in corridors or chambers with a common trough below them. This might seem utterly unpleasant to the modern sensibilities, but these designs facilitated more efficient cleaning and waste disposal compared to the haphazard methods prevalent elsewhere. These systems, while not resembling modern plumbing, did demonstrate a level of centralized waste management that was unusual in the era. Furthermore, the monastic emphasis on hygiene, though informed by religious practice rather than scientific understanding, led to a cleaner environment within the monastery walls, at least relative to the outside world. But life beyond the castle walls and monastery precincts presented an entirely different challenge. In densely populated urban centers, the lack of adequate sanitation was catastrophic. Streets became choked with waste. Overflowing cesspits and open sewers added to the squalor. These were not merely unsightly, they were breeding grounds for diseases like dysentery, cholera, and typhoid, all exacerbated by the omnipresent rats. The stench was unbearable, rendering entire neighborhoods uninhabitable, or at the very least, extremely hazardous to one's health. Epidemics were commonplace, and life expectancy was considerably shorter than today. The evolution of waste management, therefore, didn't begin in some grand laboratory, but in the grim realities of disease and death. The need for better sanitation was not a matter of mere aesthetics, it was a matter of survival. The slow and arduous process of improving sanitation, however, was influenced by a myriad of factors, including technological limitations, societal structures, and, crucially, the very slow and hesitant evolution of medical and scientific understanding. The slow, gradual improvement began with incremental changes. The construction of more efficient drains and sewers in some cities, though often inadequate and still open to the elements, represented progress. The establishment of rudimentary sanitation regulations, even if poorly enforced, was another important step. These measures, while seemingly small in retrospect, reflected an emerging recognition that waste management was vital for public health. As cities grew and the dangers of unsanitary conditions became more apparent, the need for more sophisticated solutions increased. The development of improved drainage systems, coupled with a deeper understanding of waterborne diseases, marked significant progress. The shift from open sewers to covered drains, while not eliminating the risk entirely, drastically reduced the spread of infectious diseases. This was a critical advancement because it minimized the amount of human waste that made its way into rivers, streams, and even water sources used for drinking. The Industrial Revolution, with its advancements in engineering and manufacturing, dramatically accelerated this progress. New materials and manufacturing processes allowed for the creation of more durable and efficient pipes, allowing the construction of more comprehensive sewer networks. The development of water treatment plants, although not universally implemented, also marked a major stride towards better sanitation. The realization that clean water was critical to public health was a pivotal moment, leading to investments in water purification techniques and the development of more reliable water supply systems. The scientific revolution played an equally crucial role. The development of the germ theory of disease radically altered our understanding of illness and its transmission. The discovery of microorganisms and their role in spreading diseases led to a shift in thinking about sanitation from a purely aesthetic concern to a critical public health matter. This understanding informed the development of new sanitation practices, including hand washing, sterilization techniques, and more effective methods of waste disposal. The 20th and 21st centuries saw further dramatic advances in sanitation technology. The development of improved wastewater treatment plants, utilizing a range of biological and chemical processes, significantly reduced the level of pollutants released into the environment. The advent of plastic pipes and other advanced materials allowed for the construction of highly efficient and reliable sewer systems, capable of handling the waste generated by ever-growing populations. The comparison between the gong farmers' era and our modern world illustrates the massive leaps in technology and understanding that have occurred. Modern sanitation systems are not merely an improvement over their medieval predecessors, they are a completely different world. The availability of clean water, effective sewage treatment, and robust waste disposal systems are fundamental to our current public health infrastructure and are integral to our quality of life. Modern waste management incorporates sophisticated strategies for handling hazardous waste and recycling materials, reflecting not only technological advancements, but also a growing awareness of environmental sustainability. These improvements have led to a dramatic increase in life expectancy, a reduction in the incidence of infectious diseases, and an overall improvement in human health and well-being. The story of waste management is far from over, however. The challenges facing modern sanitation systems are numerous and complex, ranging from the impact of climate change on water resources to the growing problem of plastic pollution. Nevertheless, the progress achieved since the days of the gong farmer is undeniable. The transformation from the crude and unsanitary methods of the medieval era to the sophisticated technologies of the present day provides a compelling testament to human ingenuity and the enduring pursuit of a cleaner, healthier environment. The contrast underscores the ongoing and vital need for effective waste management, a necessity for human health, community well being, and the preservation of our planet. The journey from dung to dungarees is a testament to the incredible strides humankind has made, but also a constant reminder that this evolution must continue, adapting to ever changing needs and challenges. The gong farmer's tale, while a tale of hardship and unsanitary conditions, serves as a powerful reminder of how far we have come and how crucial ongoing sanitation efforts truly are. Chapter 3: A Flush of Relief. Comparing then and now. The pungent aroma of decay, a constant companion to medieval life, reached a fever pitch in 19th century London. It wasn't the lingering scent of overflowing cesspits or the miasma rising from the Thames, though those were certainly present, but something far more overwhelming, a truly putrid symphony of stench that choked the city. This was the great stink of 1858, a summer of unbearable olfactory assault that served as a brutal wake-up call, forcing a nation to confront its neglect of public sanitation and sparking a revolution in waste management. Imagine, if you will, the summer of 1858. The heat of the London sun beat down on the already fetid streets, baking the accumulated filth into a noxious concoction. The Thames, once a vital artery of trade and lifeblood of the city, was now a sluggish, black river, a flowing cesspool of raw sewage, industrial waste, and decaying organic matter. The stench, described by contemporaries as unbearable, nauseating, and even deadly, hung heavy in the air, permeating every aspect of daily life. Parliament, situated conveniently near the river, was virtually uninhabitable. Lawmakers, accustomed to the subtle aromas of privilege, found themselves struggling to conduct business amidst the overwhelming stink. Their refined noses were assaulted, their ability to govern compromised, a uniquely pungent crisis unfolding right under their noses, quite literally. The source of this olfactory catastrophe was not some mysterious natural phenomenon, but a deeply rooted societal problem: the complete lack of a proper sewage system in a rapidly expanding metropolis. London's population had swelled dramatically during the Industrial Revolution, placing an immense strain on its existing, utterly inadequate sanitation infrastructure. The city's sewage, a mixture of human waste, industrial effluent, and animal carcasses, was largely dumped directly into the Thames, creating a toxic brew that poisoned the river and created the ideal breeding ground for disease. The consequences were immediate and devastating. Cholera outbreaks became commonplace, claiming thousands of lives. The air, thick with noxious fumes, contributed to respiratory illnesses and other health problems. The sheer volume of waste, coupled with the stifling heat, created a public health crisis of epic proportions, a stark reminder of the city's utter failure to manage its own waste. The great stink wasn't simply an unpleasant smell, it was a tangible manifestation of neglect, a symbol of the stark disparity between the wealthy elite and the impoverished masses whose suffering fueled the crisis. The public outcry was deafening. Newspapers published harrowing descriptions of the stench, vividly painting a picture of a city teetering on the brink of collapse. Citizens complained, politicians prevaricated, and yet, amidst the chaos, a solution started to emerge. The outcry, fueled by the stench and the fear of disease, finally prompted Parliament to act. For the elite, the problem was no longer an issue of mere aesthetics. It was a threat to their own health and the stability of the nation itself. The solution, however, wasn't a simple one. It demanded not only a massive engineering undertaking, but also a significant political will and financial investment. The construction of a comprehensive sewage system for a city the size of London was a Herculean task, requiring intricate planning, innovative engineering, and immense resources. The project involved digging miles of tunnels, laying thousands of pipes, and constructing numerous pumping stations and sewage treatment plants, a monumental feat of civil engineering unheard of at the time. Enter Joseph Bazalgette, a visionary engineer who would become synonymous with the solution to London's sanitation woes. His plan, ambitious in scale and radical in its approach, called for the construction of two massive sewer lines running parallel to the Thames. These lines, far larger and more efficient than anything seen before, would collect the sewage from across the city and carry it out to sea, effectively removing the waste from the Thames. The project, which was completed in less than 10 years, involved not only creating a comprehensive sewer system, but also a significant overhaul of the city's water supply, a recognition that clean water was as essential as effective waste disposal. Bazalgette's design was a masterpiece of engineering, utilizing gravity and innovative pumping technologies to move vast quantities of sewage with minimal interruption. The construction, though challenging, was testament to Victorian engineering prowess, a demonstration of ingenuity and determination on an unprecedented scale. These enormous sewers, some of which remain in use today, weren't just pipes. They were a statement of resolve, a testament to the transformative power of concerted action in the face of a public health crisis. Beyond the engineering marvel, the Great Stink also sparked significant legislative changes. The Public Health Act of 1848, though enacted earlier, was largely ignored or weakly enforced. However, the horror of the Great Stink pushed for a stronger emphasis on the regulations of public health and improved sanitation practices. Local authorities were given greater powers and resources to manage waste and improve public health. The transformation wasn't instantaneous, and the legacy of the Great Stink persisted for years, even decades, in some of the poorer neighborhoods. The new infrastructure did not immediately reach every corner of the city, particularly the poorer districts. However, it marked a turning point. The Great Stink served as a catalyst, driving widespread improvements in sanitation practices and shaping the development of modern sewage systems. It taught a powerful lesson about the importance of public health, the critical role of effective waste management, and the social and political consequences of neglecting such crucial infrastructure. The contrast between the medieval gong farmer and the era following the Great Stink is striking. The gong farmer, toiling in filth with minimal equipment, personified the grim reality of medieval sanitation, a world where disease was rampant and life expectancy was short. The Great Stink, while horrific in its own right, was a pivotal moment. It ushered in an era of technological advancement, legislative action, and societal awareness that transformed sanitation from a matter of localized inconvenience to a critical component of public health. The transformation was not just a matter of engineering, it was a shift in attitude, a recognition that sanitation was not merely a civic amenity, but a fundamental right integral to a healthy and thriving society. The legacy of the Great Stink extends far beyond the confines of 19th century London. It serves as a compelling case study in the interplay between public health, technology, and political action. It highlights the power of public pressure to drive significant social change and underscores the profound importance of investing in infrastructure designed to protect the public from preventable diseases. The lessons of the Great Stink resonate even today, reminding us of the ongoing challenge of managing waste, protecting public health, and building sustainable communities. From the unsanitary streets of medieval times to the innovative engineering solutions of the Victorian era, the story of waste management is a testament to humanity's persistent struggle to create cleaner, healthier environments. A journey far from over, but one that has undeniably progressed from the pungent realities of the Great Stink onwards. The echoes of that appalling summer still serve as a stark warning, a potent reminder of the consequences of neglecting public health and the vital role that sanitation plays in ensuring the well-being of all. Before the late 19th century, the causes of disease remained largely shrouded in mystery. Miasma theory, the prevailing belief, attributed illness to bad air, a noxious concoction of decaying matter and foul odors. The stench of the Great Stink, while undeniably unpleasant, was seen as a symptom rather than a cause of disease. It was a manifestation of a larger problem, an aesthetic and social inconvenience, rather than a direct agent of death and suffering. The very notion of microscopic organisms causing illness was a revolutionary concept, one that fundamentally reshaped our understanding of disease transmission and public health. The germ theory revolution, spearheaded by scientists like Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch, meticulously demonstrated the role of microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, and other pathogens in causing infectious diseases. Pasteur's experiments on fermentation and spontaneous generation convincingly refuted the miasma theory, demonstrating that microorganisms were not spontaneously generated from decaying matter, but instead were living entities capable of causing disease. His groundbreaking work on pasteurization, a process of heating liquids to kill harmful microorganisms, laid the foundation for food safety and preventive medicine. This was a colossal shift, from blaming the smell to identifying the unseen killers behind it. Robert Koch, meanwhile, refined the methods for identifying and isolating specific bacteria responsible for specific diseases. His postulates, still used today, provided a rigorous framework for establishing a causal link between a microorganism and a particular disease. Koch's identification of the bacterium responsible for anthrax, tuberculosis, and cholera provided irrefutable evidence for the germ theory, solidifying its acceptance within the scientific community. This wasn't just abstract science. This was solving some of the most pressing killers of the time. The impact of the germ theory on sanitation was profound and immediate. No longer could disease be attributed to vague notions of bad air. It had a concrete, identifiable enemy, the microorganism. This paradigm shift spurred advancements in hygiene practices across the board. Simple acts like hand washing, once a matter of personal preference, became a crucial component of preventing disease transmission. The meticulous sterilization of medical instruments, unthinkable in the pre germ theory era, became standard procedure. Hospitals, once havens for infection, gradually transformed into safer environments. The implications extended beyond personal hygiene. The understanding of how microorganisms spread through contaminated water and food led to significant advancements in water treatment and food safety regulations. The construction of modern sewage systems, spurred by the Great Stink, was now viewed not merely as a means of aesthetic improvement, but also as a crucial public health measure. These systems, designed to effectively remove human waste from populated areas, played a critical role in preventing the spread of waterborne diseases like cholera and typhoid. The contrast between the medieval and modern approaches to sanitation is stark. In the medieval world, waste disposal was largely haphazard, with overflowing cesspits and contaminated water sources posing constant threats. The gong farmer, braving a sea of filth with limited protection, was a figure embodying both the unsanitary realities and the limited understanding of the era. The very concept of invisible enemies causing disease was utterly absent. While they might have noticed correlations between filth and sickness, the actual mechanism was beyond comprehension. Modern sanitation, informed by the germ theory, employs a multifaceted approach, incorporating advanced sewage treatment technologies, sophisticated water purification systems, and robust food safety regulations. These systems, designed to minimize the risk of disease transmission, are a testament to the transformative power of scientific understanding. From simple hand washing to the complex engineering of modern sewage systems, the advancements in sanitation are directly attributable to our understanding of the invisible enemy, the microorganism. The consequences of this revolutionary shift in understanding are readily apparent in the drastic improvement of public health outcomes. The life expectancy has dramatically increased. Infectious diseases that once ravaged populations are now largely controlled, and the overall quality of life has been immeasurably improved. While challenges remain, the reduction in deaths from infectious diseases and the improved overall well being of populations globally is a direct testament to our improved sanitation practices. However, the germ theory revolution was not without its challenges. The initial acceptance of the theory was not universal, with entrenched beliefs and resistance from some segments of the medical community delaying its widespread adoption. The complexity of understanding the interplay between different microorganisms and the human body also took years of further research and refinement. The impact extended beyond sanitation and into areas like food preservation, medicine, and public health policy. The development of vaccines, antibiotics, and other medical interventions were a direct consequence of the germ theory and improved our ability to combat infectious diseases. The development of public health initiatives, including disease surveillance and epidemiological studies, also stemmed from this enhanced understanding. These advancements drastically altered the balance of power between humanity and disease. Moreover, the germ theory has sparked ongoing research into microbial ecology, exploring the complex relationships between microorganisms and their environments. This understanding has contributed to the development of new treatments, preventive strategies, and a deeper appreciation of the role of the microbiome in human health. The study of the human microbiome, a collection of microorganisms residing in and on the human body, has revolutionized our understanding of health and disease. Furthermore, the germ theory continues to guide research into emerging infectious diseases such as COVID-19. The rapid response and development of vaccines and treatments for this novel virus demonstrate the enduring power and relevance of the germ theory. The lessons learned from the past century of advancements in sanitation and medicine highlight the vital importance of continuous research and investment in public health infrastructure. The story of sanitation is not just a narrative of technological advancement, but also one of societal progress. The shift from the medieval understanding, or lack thereof, of disease to the modern scientific approach represents a fundamental change in our relationship with the environment and our own bodies. It's a testament to the power of scientific inquiry to transform our lives and highlights the ongoing importance of investing in scientific research and public health initiatives. The seemingly simple act of flushing a toilet, a commonplace gesture in the modern world, represents a dramatic shift in human history, the culmination of centuries of struggle against unseen enemies. The pungent odors of the past are largely gone, thanks to the science that revealed the invisible enemies lurking within those odors. From the medieval gong farmer to the modern sanitation engineer, the journey has been long and arduous, but the progress achieved is undeniable and a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. The lingering scent of progress, while less pungent, is far more pleasant. The transition from the medieval world's haphazard waste disposal to the marvel of modern sanitation is a story not just of plumbing, but of societal evolution. Imagine the gong farmer wading through a fetid mire, a stark contrast to the simple, almost nonchalant push of a lever that sends our waste silently away. That seemingly effortless act belies a centuries-long struggle, a technological odyssey marked by incremental improvements, brilliant leaps of innovation, and the relentless pursuit of a cleaner, healthier world. The story begins not with a dramatic invention, but with a gradual evolution of ideas. While the Romans had established rudimentary systems of aqueducts and sewers, the medieval period largely abandoned these advancements, reverting to simpler and less effective methods. The Renaissance, however, saw a renewed interest in public works, and with it, the seeds of modern sanitation began to sprout. The reemergence of city planning, alongside a growing awareness, though still clouded by miasma theory, of the link between filth and disease, slowly paved the way for more organized waste disposal. Early attempts at improved sanitation often involved rudimentary methods, improved cesspits, more efficient drainage systems in some cities, and a greater emphasis on street cleaning. These were small steps, but crucial ones indicating a shift in mindset. The accumulation of human waste wasn't simply accepted as an inevitable part of life. It was recognized as a problem requiring a solution, however rudimentary. The design of these early systems was often dictated by the topography of the land and the available materials, resulting in a fascinating patchwork of local solutions. Many relied on gravity to move waste, reflecting a lack of sophisticated mechanical engineering techniques. These early efforts, while far from perfect, served as the building blocks upon which future advancements would be built. The 18th and 19th centuries witnessed a dramatic acceleration in this process. The Industrial Revolution fueled unprecedented urbanization, creating densely populated cities that were overwhelmed by the sheer volume of waste. The stench became unbearable, but more importantly, the association between filth and disease became increasingly undeniable. The Great Stink of London in 1858, a particularly noxious episode of overflowing sewage, finally served as the catalyst for meaningful change. It wasn't just about aesthetics anymore, it was about survival. The invention and widespread adoption of the flush toilet represent a pivotal moment. While various precursors existed, the modern flush toilet, with its efficient water-powered flushing mechanism, emerged as the dominant solution. This was not simply a matter of convenience. It was a technological breakthrough that dramatically reduced the buildup of waste and the associated health risks. The design evolved over time, with improvements in materials, sealing, and trap mechanisms, ensuring a more hygienic and efficient system. The development of ceramic materials was particularly significant, offering a more durable and easy to clean surface compared to earlier materials. The flush toilet, however, was only one piece of the puzzle. The development of effective sewage systems was equally crucial. These systems required sophisticated engineering, involving the construction of extensive networks of pipes, pumps, and treatment plants. Gravity-fed systems, initially favored for their simplicity, proved inadequate for many situations, leading to the development of pump-assisted systems capable of moving waste uphill and over greater distances. The engineering challenges were immense, particularly in densely populated urban areas. The construction of subterranean networks of pipes, often traversing complex terrain and existing infrastructure, required immense planning and execution. The development of specialized materials and techniques for pipe laying, joint sealing, and leak prevention was crucial for the success of these systems. The design of sewage treatment plants represents another significant milestone. Early treatment plants were relatively simple, relying on sedimentation to separate solids from liquids. However, advancements in microbiology and chemical engineering led to the development of more sophisticated treatment methods capable of removing a wider range of pollutants and pathogens. The introduction of biological treatment processes employing microorganisms to break down organic matter proved particularly transformative. These processes dramatically reduced the amount of pollutants released into the environment, minimizing the impact on water quality and ecosystems. The advancements weren't limited to sewage treatment. The development of water purification technologies played an equally crucial role in improving public health. The introduction of filtration and disinfection techniques, such as chlorination, effectively eliminated many waterborne pathogens, further reducing the incidence of infectious diseases. These techniques, combined with improved water distribution networks, ensured a safe and reliable supply of drinking water for a growing population. The integration of these systems with sewage management created a complex but efficient network for maintaining public health. The development of modern sanitation systems was not without its social and economic challenges. The initial cost of building and maintaining these systems was significant, posing a challenge for many municipalities. Moreover, the integration of new technologies into existing infrastructure often required considerable disruption and inconvenience for residents. The issue of equitable access to sanitation remained a significant obstacle, with disparities between wealthy and poor communities persisting. Even today, challenges remain. The management of wastewater from industrial processes presents a unique set of challenges, demanding specialized treatment techniques to remove harmful chemicals and pollutants. The growing problem of plastic waste in sewage systems poses a significant threat to the efficiency and longevity of these crucial infrastructures. Climate change is further exacerbating these challenges, with increased rainfall and flooding placing added stress on existing systems. The ongoing development of sustainable sanitation technologies is crucial for addressing these challenges. The exploration of innovative treatment methods such as anaerobic digestion and membrane bioreactors offers the promise of more efficient and environmentally friendly waste management practices. The development of decentralized sanitation systems, tailored to the needs of specific communities, is crucial for improving access to sanitation in underserved areas. The integration of smart technologies, such as sensors and data analytics, can further enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of sanitation systems. The journey from the medieval gong farmer to the sophisticated sanitation engineer is a testament to human ingenuity and the transformative power of technology. The seemingly simple act of flushing a toilet represents a profound shift in our relationship with waste, disease, and the environment. It is a reminder of the crucial role of engineering and public health initiatives in creating a cleaner, healthier, and more sustainable world. The invisible enemy, once lurking in the shadows of ignorance, has been brought to light, subdued, and largely defeated, not through magic or myth, but through careful observation, painstaking research, and the brilliant application of science and engineering. The quiet efficiency of our modern systems is a testament to this remarkable journey. The pungent odors of the past have been largely replaced by the quiet hum of progress, a far more pleasant fragrance indeed. The story of sanitation, however, doesn't end with the triumph of the flush toilet and sophisticated sewage systems in the developed world. The 21st century presents a new set of challenges, a global tapestry woven with threads of progress and persistent disparity. While we in the developed world enjoy the almost invisible luxury of clean water and efficient waste disposal, a significant portion of the global population lacks access to even the most basic sanitation facilities. This disparity isn't simply a matter of inconvenience, it's a profound humanitarian crisis impacting health, economic development, and environmental sustainability. The World Health Organization, WHO, and UNICEF's Joint Monitoring Program, JMP, provide sobering statistics. Billions of people globally lack access to safely managed sanitation services, meaning their waste is not safely disposed of, treated, and removed from their environment. The consequences are dire. Unsafe sanitation leads to the spread of waterborne diseases like cholera, typhoid, and diarrheal illnesses, causing millions of preventable deaths each year, primarily affecting children under 5. These diseases aren't just a physical burden, they also cripple economies, hindering educational attainment and economic productivity. Families struggling with constant illness are unable to focus on building a better future, perpetuating a cycle of poverty and ill health. The lack of sanitation disproportionately impacts marginalized communities. Poverty, conflict, and political instability often converge to create environments where sanitation infrastructure is either non existent or inadequate. Rural communities, often lacking access to essential resources and infrastructure, face particularly significant challenges. Women and girls are especially vulnerable, frequently subjected to violence and harassment when forced to use open defecation sites. This vulnerability highlights the crucial intersection between sanitation and gender equality. Addressing sanitation issues requires a multi pronged approach that considers the social, economic, and political dimensions of the problem. The geographical distribution of these challenges is uneven. Sub Saharan Africa and parts of South Asia bear a disproportionate burden, with staggeringly high rates of open defecation and limited access to improved sanitation facilities. These regions face a complex interplay of factors, including rapid population growth, limited financial resources, and challenging geographical conditions. The lack of access to safe water further exacerbates the problem, creating a vicious cycle where poor sanitation contaminates water sources, leading to further disease and hindering development efforts. The challenges extend beyond simple infrastructure. Effective sanitation requires a multifaceted approach that integrates technological innovation, behavioral change, and strong policy frameworks. While constructing toilets and sewage systems is crucial, it's not enough. Behavior change programs play a vital role in encouraging people to adopt and maintain hygienic practices. Education campaigns can increase awareness about the health risks associated with poor sanitation and the benefits of using improved facilities. Community involvement is critical, ensuring the sustainability of sanitation projects and fostering a sense of ownership and responsibility. Government policies and regulations are also essential for creating a supportive environment for improved sanitation. These policies should prioritize investment in infrastructure, promote the use of appropriate technologies, and enforce standards that ensure the safety and efficiency of sanitation systems. However, funding for sanitation often lags behind other development priorities, highlighting the need for increased international cooperation and investment. Many international organizations and NGOs are actively working to address the global sanitation crisis, providing funding, technical assistance, and promoting innovative solutions. These initiatives often focus on community led approaches, emphasizing the importance of local participation and sustainability. The development of innovative sanitation technologies is also crucial. Traditional sewage systems, while effective, are often expensive and require extensive infrastructure. The exploration of alternative technologies, such as decentralized sanitation systems and constructed wetlands, is proving promising. These systems can provide affordable and sustainable sanitation solutions, particularly in rural and underserved communities. They often rely on locally available materials and require less energy and maintenance, making them suitable for a wider range of contexts. The development of appropriate technologies requires close collaboration between engineers, scientists, and community members to ensure the systems are culturally appropriate, technically feasible, and environmentally sustainable. The role of technology extends beyond physical infrastructure. The use of digital technologies, such as mobile phone applications and geographic information systems, GIS, is transforming sanitation management. These tools can help track sanitation coverage, monitor the performance of sanitation systems, and target interventions more effectively. Data analytics can identify areas with the greatest need for improvement and inform resource allocation decisions. The integration of smart technologies into sanitation systems is providing real time monitoring capabilities, allowing for proactive maintenance and early detection of issues. However, the technological solutions alone are not a panacea. The issue of sanitation is intrinsically linked to broader issues of poverty, inequality, and governance. Addressing the root causes of these problems is essential for achieving sustainable improvements in sanitation. Effective sanitation programs require a holistic approach that addresses not only the technical aspects, but also the social, economic, and political dimensions of the challenge. Strong political will, robust institutional frameworks, and the commitment of various stakeholders are all critical for creating a future where everyone has access to safely managed sanitation services. The 21st century's sanitation narrative is a complex one, a mixture of significant advancements and persistent challenges. While the developed world enjoys the quiet efficiency of modern plumbing, a significant portion of the global population still struggles with the consequences of poor sanitation. The journey to universal access to safely managed sanitation is a long and arduous one, requiring sustained effort, innovation, and a commitment to social justice and global equity. It demands more than simply building toilets. It necessitates a comprehensive, collaborative approach that tackles the complex interplay of poverty, inequality, and environmental sustainability. The goal remains elusive, but the journey itself, with its mix of technological breakthroughs, policy shifts, and grassroots movements, underscores humanity's unwavering determination to create a world where a flush of relief is not a luxury, but a fundamental right. The lingering scent of the medieval gong farmer's labors serves as a constant reminder of the distance traveled and the distance yet to go. The clang of the medieval gong farmer's tools, the stench clinging to the cobbled streets, the ever present threat of disease. These images, though stark, offer a powerful counterpoint to the seemingly mundane act of flushing a toilet. We, beneficiaries of centuries of technological advancement and societal progress, often take for granted the simple act of relieving ourselves in a clean, private, and safe environment. This seemingly insignificant daily ritual is, in reality, a testament to remarkable human ingenuity and a powerful symbol of public health triumphs. Consider the sheer complexity of the unseen infrastructure that makes our modern sanitation systems function seamlessly, from the intricate network of pipes and pumps that carry wastewater away from our homes to the sophisticated treatment plants that purify the water before it's returned to the environment, a complex choreography of engineering and scientific prowess underpins our daily habits. This infrastructure operates largely unseen, a silent guardian of public health, its effectiveness only truly appreciated when it falters. A sudden sewage backup, a burst pipe, a power outage affecting the treatment plant. These rare disruptions bring into sharp relief the vital role this often ignored infrastructure plays in our lives. The quiet hum of the system, the unobtrusive efficiency of the flush, belies the immense sophistication and scale of the engineering marvel that keeps us safe and healthy. The impact of improved sanitation extends far beyond individual convenience. The eradication or significant reduction of waterborne diseases like cholera, typhoid, and dysentery, once rampant scourges in densely populated areas, is a direct result of improved sanitation. These diseases, capable of decimating entire populations in the pre-modern world, are now largely under control in developed nations, a victory largely attributable to improved sanitation systems and public health initiatives. The time and energy once devoted to battling illness can now be channeled towards education, economic growth, and other aspects of societal development. Think about the implications for women and children, historically disproportionately affected by inadequate sanitation. The lack of safe, private toilet facilities often forces women and girls to venture out at night or in unsafe locations, exposing them to harassment and violence. The risk of sexual assault and other forms of violence associated with poor sanitation has a devastating impact on their lives and contributes to gender inequality. Modern sanitation systems, by providing safe and private facilities, contribute to the safety and empowerment of women and children, enabling them to participate more fully in society. The history of sanitation is, in many ways, a microcosm of human progress. It's a story of continuous innovation, adaptation, and a relentless pursuit of better living conditions. From the rudimentary latrines of ancient civilizations to the sophisticated wastewater treatment plants of today, we've made incredible strides in our understanding of sanitation and its impact on human health and well-being. Each advancement, from the invention of the flush toilet to the development of advanced water treatment technologies, represents a significant step towards a healthier and more equitable world. However, the story is far from over. While the developed world enjoys the luxury of advanced sanitation systems, a significant portion of the global population continues to lack access to even the most basic facilities. Millions still practice open defecation, exposing themselves to a myriad of health risks and environmental hazards. This global sanitation gap is not simply a matter of inconvenience. It's a moral imperative that demands our urgent attention. The challenges are considerable, ranging from limited infrastructure and financial resources to deeply entrenched cultural norms and societal inequalities. Addressing the global sanitation crisis requires a multifaceted approach that integrates technological innovation, policy reform, and community engagement. It requires a commitment to sustainable development, ensuring that sanitation systems are not only built but also maintained and operated effectively over the long term. It necessitates investment in education and awareness campaigns, empowering communities to adopt and maintain hygienic practices. And finally, it requires a global partnership, bringing together governments, international organizations, NGOs, and individuals to work towards a future where everyone has access to safely managed sanitation services. The seemingly simple act of flushing a toilet, therefore, takes on a deeper meaning when viewed within the context of history. It's a daily reminder of the enormous progress humanity has made in addressing one of its oldest and most persistent challenges. It's a symbol of our capacity for innovation, our dedication to public health, and our unwavering pursuit of a better future for all. Let us not take this often overlooked convenience for granted, but instead appreciate the unseen infrastructure, the tireless efforts of countless individuals, and the advancements in science and engineering that make it possible. The next time you reach for the flush, take a moment to reflect on the journey from the medieval gong farmer to the modern marvels of sanitation. It's a journey of progress, a testament to the human spirit, and a constant reminder that even the most fundamental aspects of our lives are built upon a foundation of history, ingenuity, and collective effort. Let us continue this journey, ensuring that the simple act of flushing a toilet remains a symbol not just of convenience, but of human progress and equity for all. The flush, after all, is not merely a release. It's a release into a world of progress, a world where the silent, unseen system continues to protect us, a world where we can quietly reflect on the vast differences between the past and the present with a heartfelt sense of gratitude. The legacy of the gong farmer serves not as a grim reminder of the past, but as a testament to how far we have come, underscoring the importance of our continued efforts in achieving universal access to sanitation for all. The quiet efficiency of the flush is more than just a convenience. It's a sign of progress, of hope, and of a future where the basic necessities of life are within reach for every human being on Earth. The journey to that future continues, and the next flush is another step along the way.